Hello, in this video we're going to look at the section 3D, rationalising the denominator. So basically this just means that we don't leave the third on the denominator. So you can see here that we've got the square root of y and our final result is y. So we've got to rationalising the denominator just means that we're, oops, don't know how that happened. Let me just quickly go back up. Just means that we're not leaving a third as a denominator. So you can see here, and it's probably better to do a few examples because this might not make a lot of sense just using arbitrary x and y. But basically, if you had x over the square root of y, to get rid of that square root of y, we multiply it by the square root of y over the square root of y. And that's because that's the same as multiplying it by 1. Okay, so when you have the numerator the same as the denominator, it's just 1. So we haven't really changed anything. We're just multiplying it by 1, but that 1 is the square root of y over the square root of y. When you multiply the denominators, so remember the square root of y times the square root of y is just y, and then we multiply the numerators, x times the square root of y gives us x root y. All right. So if that didn't make sense, let's go through quite a few examples and hopefully it will make sense for you. In this worksheet, what I have done is I've put the solutions at the end. These are questions from your textbook, so if you're a bit unsure which question it relates to, then have a look. I'm sorry I didn't put the question number there, but it's easy to find. Okay, so we're in 3D. It's not going to be hard for you to find. Okay, so let's look at A. So first of all, we've got 3 over the square root of 5. So what we want to do is get rid of the third here at the denominator. So our first step, and I might do this in a different colour, is we multiply it by root 5 over root 5. Now you may recall from one of the previous videos that when we multiply, so I'm just going to do that over here, when we multiply thirds, the numbers underneath can be put under 1 square root sign. So that's going to be the square root of 25, which is 5. So the purpose of multiplying it by that same third is to effectively get rid of that square root sign. Okay, so what we now have on the numerator is 3 times root 5, and then on the denominator is root 5 times root 5, which I did over here. So you don't have to do this working out that I did over here. It's just to show you how you just get 5 and not a third on your denominator. Okay, so that's what it means by rationalising the denominator. Oh, sorry, let me just quickly go back up. I want to create some more space for myself, but I couldn't do that. There we go. Okay, let's move on to question B. Okay, so what have we got? 2 root 3 over the square root of 5. Okay, it's not always going to be the square root of 5, it just happens to be that way. Okay, so whatever the denominator is. Okay, so we can straight away just say, well, that's going to be 5. I don't really have to expand this step. And then on top, I'm going to have 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, so you don't simplify that square root of 15 any further because no square numbers go into it. So it just becomes 2 root 15 over 5. All right, I'm going to skip C just because I don't have enough space to do both C and D, and I'm going to do D. So we've got 1 minus root 2 over 2. And then I should have probably done that a bit smaller. Okay, so we're just multiplying that by root 2 over 2. So our denominator just becomes 2. And then on the top, you're going to have both terms multiplied by the root 2. So I've put them in brackets just so we don't get confused. And then we expand. So root 2 times 1 is root 2, and then root 2 times root 2, because the bases are the same, it's just going to become 2. And there's your answer. So we can't cancel out because of this minus sign. So it's going to be root 2 minus 2 over 2. All right, let's skip to the next question. So rewrite each of the following in the form root a over root b and then rationalize the denominators. Okay, so a is going to become root 2 over root 3, and then we multiply that by the same denominator. Okay, so root 3 over root 3. On top we have, I'm just going to do this in one go, 2 times 3, which is 6, and then on the bottom, root 3 times 3 is just 3. So there we have root 6 on 3. Don't think you can simplify that 6. It is underneath the square root sign. So the square root of 6 is not 3, okay? Or has a factor of 3 even in it. Okay, I wasn't going to do every single question because I'm not going to have enough room. All right, let's just do 5. All right, so I know my denominator is going to be 7. Then on top, 5 times 7 is 35. That can't be simplified any further. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, let's skip to G. So square root of 10 over the square root of 3. Then we multiply that by root 3 over root 3. So the square root of 30 over 3. And let's just do H. Square root of 17 over the square root of 2. Okay, so we've got square root of 17 times 2, which is 34 over 2. And no square numbers go into 34, so it can't be simplified. All right, here just do same thing, but we've got multiple terms in the numerator. So we've got one of these similar before. So let's start with D. Root 3 minus root 5 over root 2. So we're going to multiply that by root 2 over root 2. So our denominator, we're going to have 2. And then because we've got 2 terms here in our numerator, I'm going to put them both in brackets just so I remember that the square root of 2 multiplies both of them. So the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6. 2 times, don't forget that minus sign, 2 times 5 is 10, and that is all over 2. And we can't actually simplify it any further, so we just leave it as that. Okay, let's move on to, let's do J. So we've got 4 root 2 minus 5 root 3. I think in my answers I didn't do all the answers for this one. So just maybe check on your CAS or in your textbook. It was only because it had A, D, G, J. That's all I took the screenshot of. Okay. So if you're wondering where they are, I didn't copy them in. Okay, so sorry. Denominator 6, and then because we've got 2 terms on the numerator, putting them in brackets. So now I've got root 6 times 4 root 2, so that becomes 4 root 12. Minus 5 square root of 18 over 6. Now I can see that that square root of 12 and also the square root of 18 can be simplified. So let me just give us a bit more space. Hopefully we've got a bit more space down here. Okay, so square root of 12, you should be able to simplify that. That's what we did in 3a. But remember, you take your highest square number. So in this case, it's 4. And then to simplify that 18, the highest square number in 18 is 9. So that's all over 6. So this becomes, I'm going to put a multiply sign in there just so we don't get confused. So that's going to become 2 root 3 minus 15 root 2. Okay, so the square root of 4 becomes 2, and the square root of 9 becomes 3. And then I've already done the 3 times 5, which is 15. Okay, so we don't have likes. Oops, that's all over 6. Let's not forget about that. Okay, so let's just tidy things up. I'm going to run out of space. So I might just put it over here. So we've got 8. I run out of space, yet I write it right down the bottom. Okay. And I just realized I did that as I wrote it because I'm thinking ahead and making mistakes. Okay, so you can't simplify that any further. When I made that error before, was thinking, can I simplify these numbers? Do they have a common factor? No, they don't. So we just leave it as 8 root 3 minus 15 root 2 all over 6. All right, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so a lot here. I'm not going to do them all. Let's scroll down. Let's just do the G, H, and I. Okay, can I just read what the question says? I think I would. Just make sure I'm doing the right thing. Simplify the following by first rationalizing the denominators and then using a common denominator. Okay, so we're going to have to do the subtraction. Okay, so G, let's see if I can do that immediately below. So we're going to just treat each fraction separate. So I might do that in a color, what we're multiplying it by. So I need to get rid of the root 7. So I'm just going to multiply it by the root 7 over root 7. And then maybe I won't have enough space. Over 3 root 2. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply that by root 2 over root 2. I only have to do the third part. I don't have to do the numerical part. Okay, so what have I got up the top? 7 root 14, and then root 7 times root 7 is 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. And then this next one, what have we got? 2 root 14. And then on the bottom, we've got 3 times 2, which is 6. Now we can simplify this a little bit further because 7 goes into 35. So I'm going to do that first before I make the denominators the same. So this becomes root 14 over 5. And this becomes root 14 over 3. Now, so we can do the subtraction. Your denominators have to be the same. So the lowest common multiple is 15. So I'm going to get that to 15. I need to multiply that by 3 and this one by 5. But remember fractions. Whatever we do to the top, we do to the bottom. Oh, I'm running out of space here. Let me just scroll down. Okay, so we've got 3 root 14. And then on the bottom, we've got 15 minus 5 root 14 over 15. And now that we have the same denominator, I can do my subtraction. Oh, what a long question. All right, 3 root 14 minus 5 root 14, because they're the same surd, we can subtract them. So 3 minus 5 is 2, or negative 2, sorry, over 15. So there's our final answer. Nice and long. Sorry, I actually just paused the video to check my answer and realized I forgot the square root of 14. So just putting that in there. Okay, so it should be negative 2 root 14 over 15. Good thing I checked my answer. All right, so let's just get rid of some space, make some space here. Okay, I might just do one other one because don't want the video to be too long. Okay, so we'll just do I. So we've got 5 root 2 over 3 root 5, and I'm going to multiply that by root 5 on root 5. Yeah, and when I was looking at the answer for the other one, they seem to do it a lot in a more complicated way. I think simplifying along the way helped not complicate things. But also talking while I'm doing this is probably going to make a mistake. No, all good. Good to go. Okay, so on my numerator, we've got 5. 2 times 5 is 10, so root 10. And then 3 root 5 times root 5, remember, is 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. And then 4, 7 times 6 is 42. And then on the bottom, 3 times 6 is 18. All right, so simplify it here. I don't think that in the answers, the textbook answers, they're actually simplifying at this step, which makes things very hard to do by hand. So the 5 over 15 becomes 1/3. Okay, so we can just write that as, I should probably write smaller than that so I've got enough space. All right, and the 4 over 18, we can take 2 as 2, yeah. So 2 root 42 over 9. Okay, so just simplifying them. The square root of 42 does not simplify, and the square root of 10 does not simplify at this moment. Okay, so let's now make the denominator the same so we can actually do the subtraction. The 3 and the 9, the lowest common multiple is 9. So to do that, I'm going to multiply just this fraction. So the numerator and the denominator by 3. So I've got 3 root 10. And then 3 times 3 is 9. And then we just keep that as 42 over 9. Now that we have the same denominator, everything goes over 9. And I'm just thinking, no, we cannot simplify that any further. So it's 3 root 10 minus 2 root 42. And we can't simplify the 3, 2, and 9 either. So that looks good to me. All right, and then we're at the answers. Okay, long video again, I'm sorry, but a lot of work to do, and hopefully you're good to go. All right, bye.